From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
Now at 5:30, a local woman's invention is helping fight the battle against COVID-19. Coming up, we'll show you her invention and how it can help people stay safe on the go.
Topping our lineup, the number of complaints about issues with car loans and leases has been off the charts during the pandemic. The most common issues to watch for and how to protect yourself. Well, this is something we could see more of now. One company cut its work week to just 4 days while keeping the same pay and same hours. Look at how this is working. If you've been on the fence about refinancing your home, there may be some added incentive for you. Why waiting longer could leave you paying more, and how to potentially get around this.
A Hamilton County woman had an idea which turned into an invention which can help keep you healthy. WRTV's Kelsey Anderson is showing us the product that has a purpose.
It's personal. It's a personal mission just to save lives.
Angie Washburn created the Portaire, a portable hand washing station, in 2017. The respiratory care practitioner became passionate about patient hand hygiene when a family member died after contracting a healthcare acquired infection.
These are infections that can be acquired when you're in the hospital and then complicate things for you. So it's additional illnesses.
She tells me some infections cannot be addressed with hand sanitizer alone.
You hear staff should wash their hands, but we don't hear a lot about patient hands. And so we're starting to look at patient hands as being those transmitters of disease and illness.
The device created to help patients wash their hands is now something a lot of people could utilize amid the pandemic.
So we're noticing a huge interest for those that serve the homeless population, for them to be able to have a way to wash their hands. Agriculture, we've started discussions with some of those. We've got farm workers who don't have a way to wash their hands when they're out harvesting by hand. And then healthcare, both home care, acute care, and those facilities.
She says now more than ever, we know the importance of hand hygiene, and this small kit can travel anywhere.
We're just on a mission to try to help people wash their hands on a regular basis and stay healthy.
Working for you, Kelsey Anderson, WRTV.
Well, still adjusting to that big change in temperatures, much cooler feel, but at least we have had a lot of sunshine today. Just a few of those fair weather cumulus clouds as we look at the view from Bloomington. Still breezy. Those winds right now are coming out of the west, around 10 to 15 miles per hour. We will start to see them come a little more southwest, and that will help improve our temperatures a little bit here going forward. We've got numbers that range from the lower 60s for you in Sullivan, 60 degrees in Bloomington, while you're sitting in the lower 50s in Richmond right now at 51. And I do think it's eastern locations that will be a little bit cooler here as we go into tonight. Heading out this evening for your Friday evening plans, it will be very nice. We are going to stay dry with just a few clouds around, but look at these temperatures quickly falling off here. We're already into the upper 40s at 9 o'clock. So especially if you're heading out to some of the area football games, you're going to want to layer up here with that breeze as well. Temperatures in the middle 40s as we approach midnight. So much of central Indiana highlighted in the blue here, frost advisory, but there's that colder pocket around Muncie, Anderson, into Rushville and Columbus. That's where we have that freeze warning in effect through early on Saturday, with temperatures there a little closer to the freezing mark. We'll call for a low of 36 in Indy and 35 in Lafayette. We'll take you right through the upcoming weekend in a few minutes. Lindsay.
The U.S. government is launching a new study to test 3 drugs for whether they help slow down an overactive immune system response. That response can cause severe illness or death in people with COVID-19. The people in the study will get the antiviral drug remdesivir along with one of the 3 drugs or a placebo. 2 of the drugs are sold now for rheumatoid arthritis, and one is an experimental drug. They work to stop an overproduction of chemicals the body makes to fight infections that can damage organs. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization says remdesivir has little to no effect on COVID patients' chances of survival. That starts our news feed. 4 potential drugs were evaluated in a trial. The drug's manufacturer rejects the findings, saying that they're inconsistent with others. The Trump administration has appointed 2 political operatives at the CDC. Agency officials tell the AP they are keeping an eye on the CDC's director. Investigators are looking at if the 2 have affected the agency's work. The White House did not comment. Drug maker Pfizer says it could file for COVID vaccine authorization in late November, and that would make a vaccine unlikely before the November 3rd election. Having a full kitchen of healthy foods is becoming a luxury. Food pantries across the country are still seeing a dramatic increase in need.
I hope that eventually we get this thing under control so that we can wean everyone off the need for food pantries and shelters like ours, because this is not sustainable.
That CEO of a New Jersey food bank says that they have seen an increase in demand of almost 2.5 million meals compared to this time last year. Feeding America says at the peak in April, there was a 70% increase in demand, and it sustained around 60% higher. Many food banks say they're seeing families for the first time.
You can always tell someone who's never been to a pantry before. They come literally right up to this building in tears because they never had to ask for help before. And it's crushing to all of us.
Feeding America expects that increased need will continue during the holidays, which is an important time for food banks.
We see increased awareness around hunger and food insecurity around the holidays. It's a great time for food banks to fundraise. A lot of that fundraising helps sustain them throughout the year.
Food banks say cash donations are critical for that and to purchase new supplies like PPE. Next in our lineup, the number of complaints about issues with car loans and leases has been off the charts during the pandemic. The most common issues to watch for and how to protect yourself. Americans are calling out practices at some car lots more now than ever before.
We found a pattern of abusive and deceptive practices that the auto loan industry has been employing. And unfortunately, these complaints have sharply increased during the pandemic.
Looking at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's consumer complaint database, the U.S. Public Interest Research Group found that between March and July, there were more than 2,800 auto loan and lease complaints. That's more than any other 5-month period. This includes complaints like not getting auto loan relief, which the CARES Act didn't specify, but some lenders offered to work with customers. Also complaints about broken payment systems that led to late fees and issues with loan terms changing or yo-yo financing.
You go into a dealership, you buy a car, you sign on the dotted line, but as you're driving away, you get a phone call from your dealer that says, hey, the financing has fallen through. I'm going to take your car back unless you agree to pay more or pay a higher interest rate.
There are complaints about harassment over repossession and debt and expensive add-ons like warranties, insurance, and service plans. High-pressure tactics are another problem.
If you put somebody in a room for a long period of time, they're going to be so frustrated that they're going to want to get out of there. And then you can pressure them into buying these things that they don't need.
U.S. PIRG is pushing policymakers for auto loan relief programs, banning repossession, debt collection, and negative credit reporting. It also has some recommendations for customers. Don't roll an old auto loan into a new loan. U.S. PIRG also says avoid buy here, pay here lots. And don't get focused on low monthly payments. Instead, compare the total cost of the loan, including interest paid. And file complaints with Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. It creates pressure on lenders to make things right. More in our lineup. This is something that we could see more of now. One company cut its work week to just 4 days while keeping the same pay. Look at how this is all working for them. It's been a record-breaking year for natural disasters across the country. So far this year, 17 in all, each one with damages of more than $1 billion. Maya Rodriguez looked into what's behind all of these high-priced disasters and what can be done to deal with them.
Louisiana, a state dealing with not one, but 2 multi-billion-dollar natural disasters within the span of 6 weeks. Hurricanes Laura and Delta.
This family here just moved in less than a week ago. They're just getting settled in, haven't even put all their things in place, and they're having to move out until we can get it repaired.
Up until Hurricane Delta, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said the country experienced 16 natural disasters this year with damages over $1 billion, from fires and droughts in the west to tornadoes and flooding in the Midwest and hurricanes along the east and Gulf coasts. 16 tied the record for the most ever recorded in a single year. That is, until Hurricane Delta broke the record with at least $2 billion in damages.
The overall trend is one of an increasing number of billion-dollar disasters.
Jeff Schlegelmilch heads up Columbia University's National Center for Disaster Preparedness. He says there are two main reasons we're seeing more of these high-priced natural disasters. The first, climate change.
But to deny climate change is to deny one of the critical drivers of these disasters.
The other reason, he says, where people choose to live. The population is growing, leading to more development in vulnerable areas, like in hurricane-susceptible coastlines and in wooded areas susceptible to wildfires.
Are we prepared to accommodate such large numbers of people in areas that are increasingly vulnerable to disasters? And if not, what investments do we need to make in order to do that?
That might mean putting stricter building codes in place, he says, and rethinking disasters beyond just responding to them when they happen, the way FEMA and states do now.
So looking at this more holistically, I don't think we yet have a great model for doing this federally or at the states or at the community level.
But it's more than just about the numbers when it comes to billion-dollar disasters.
And what we don't really capture as accurately within those numbers are the loss of lives, the loss of livelihoods, and the communities that can actually be held back for a generation or more.
Impacts felt both now and potentially by generations that follow. I'm Maya Rodriguez reporting.
You've heard from the health experts who say getting a flu shot is more essential than ever during this pandemic. And several local organizations are doing what they can to make that process easier and more convenient, including the Children's Museum. Today, they held the first of 6 drive-through flu shot clinics. Pharmacists were on hand giving the shots at no cost.
We really are recommending flu shots this year because we know that having the flu can decrease your body's defenses and make you susceptible to other illnesses. And for 2020, some of those other illnesses include COVID-19.
If you missed today, no worries. Other drive-through clinics at the museum are scheduled for October 17th, 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th. Kyle.
October zipping right along here, isn't it? And we've got some cooler temperatures and that first frost and freeze across central Indiana, pretty much right on track for where it should be. Our typical first 32-degree temperature, October 14th, so only missed it by about a day. Temperatures remain cool out there compared to where we have been. 56 degrees, very low humidity with that breezy west wind. And temperatures, although they are cool, they are improving over where they were this time yesterday by about 5 to 10 degrees, and that is a trend that will continue here into the upcoming weekend. Saturday, Sunday, our highs are back into the middle 60s here. Saturday looks to be your better outdoor day. It's going to be a breezy one, though. We'll have occasional gusts around 30 miles per hour. And then Sunday, I think most of the day here is going to be dry. As we get into the evening hours, rain chances will increase. But here's a look at that Saturday forecast. Again, it is going to be chilly tomorrow morning, 36 degrees for us at 8 a.m. Temperatures that will get into the mid-50s at noon and middle 60s as those clouds continue to increase a little bit more throughout the day. Looking at that wind gust forecast here as we go through mid-morning on Saturday, out of the south, not too bad, gusting around 15 miles per hour. But as we get into the afternoon and evening hours, we see those gusts a little closer to that 30-mile-per-hour mark here, and they're going to continue that way even on into tomorrow night. So we're not going to see them really relax with sunset like we often do. On Sunday, there are the clouds, dry weather, 64 at 4 o'clock. But notice as we get to 8 o'clock in the evening, rain chances do return for us, and we can see that here as we get into about 6 o'clock Sunday evening, especially by 9 o'clock in the evening. We see some more widespread rain across the area, and it may last here into our Monday as well. Looks like most models coming in about 1/3 of an inch of rainfall coming our way here late weekend into early next week. Temperatures, they do start to warm up next week. Highs are actually back in the 70s by Thursday.
80% of the hours for 100% of the pay. It's a concept that many companies have said they're exploring lately, but does it work? Well, here are the results after one company put it to the test.
I started to read about it back in 2019.
A 32-hour work week sounds dreamy? It's an idea that Uncharted CEO Banks Benitez brought to his executive team late last year. But then COVID happened.
Do we need to be working like crazy hours right now, or do we need to really think about how we care for the mental health of our team and give people some space?
So this summer, they launched an experiment, hiring a third-party company to evaluate the efficacy of the experiment. They looked at three main things: performance, culture, and mental health.
Performance stayed the same, and that was constant over the course of the experiment compared to previous performance.
Culture, he says, slightly improved at the Denver-based company. People felt just as or a little more connected to members on their team. And no surprise, their mental health improved.
I know that our best work comes when our team is healthy, when our team is mentally healthy, when our team is aligned and in touch with each other.
Benitez says there's a different mentality that his employees bring in when they have a 4-day work week. They're more focused and clear about priorities. But there are some downfalls.
There's a little bit less buffer time to sort of just kind of go with the wind. I think you have to be really thoughtful about how you structure your time. But of course, the benefit of that is Fridays are off.
Which leads to more downtime and time to refresh before starting the work grind again Monday morning.
How do we situate Uncharted within the broader life that they're living, whether that's family, kids, adventures, travel, all that stuff? If we can do that, I think the team will come back and perform better.
Taking a look at the news feed, the DEA is dealing with several complaints of racial discrimination at its training academy. Minorities are reportedly singled out, insulted, and held to a higher standard than white counterparts. One of those complaints is currently under investigation. Two cities are suing the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department. Oakland, California and Portland, Oregon say the Marshals Service unlawfully deputized dozens of local officers as federal agents, meaning those arrested in protests could face federal charges. More than 150 business groups and nonprofits are asking the president to withdraw an executive order that limits diversity training. The executive order prohibits federal agencies and companies with federal contracts from offering certain diversity training on racial and gender biases. In a letter, the group said the order creates confusion and hinders companies from combating workplace discrimination. Remember that massive Takata airbag problem? Well, we could be in for a similar issue, this time with seat belts. The company that took over Takata when it went into bankruptcy says that it found inaccurate test results done on seat belts before it took over. Can't yet say exactly how many seat belts are involved, but that could lead to safety recalls. Takata admitted to submitting false airbag inflator test results. An extended warning for pregnant women. The FDA says expecting mothers should avoid common pain relievers and prescription anti-inflammatory drugs during their last 4 months of pregnancy. This includes popular over-the-counter brands like Advil and Aleve. Most of these drugs already have a warning label to avoid using in the last 3 months of pregnancy because of other possible complications. New incidents of a rare but serious amniotic fluid problem that can hurt the baby prompted this warning. Finally, in our lineup, if you bet on the fence about refinancing your home, there may be added incentive for you. Why waiting longer could actually leave you paying more, and how to potentially get around this. Mortgage rates have been low for months, but currently about 19 million homeowners who are eligible to refinance haven't cashed in. According to data analytics firm Black Knight, these homeowners have a credit score of 720 or more and at least 20% equity in their homes. They could save nearly $300 a month on average. A new survey by YouGov for Forbes Advisor found 34% of homeowners say they're not sure refinancing is worth it. A mortgage analyst at Forbes Advisor says one reason people may be hesitant is they don't want to deal with banks that are overloaded with applications right now.
Borrowers really need to kind of advocate for themselves. So make sure that you call your lender if you haven't heard from them in over a week, let's say, or just really stay on top of it. And at the end of the day, if you're not getting the service that you want, there are many other lenders that would be happy to get your business.
Another reason you should act now if you're considering refinancing is there's a new fee. It starts December 1st, but your loan may not be processed before then if you don't start the process now.
What you want to do is talk to your lender. If you decide to apply for a loan, ask them, say, will you roll this fee into the cost of my loan, which some lenders are doing, and find out some lenders might be able to process your application before December 1st.
That mortgage analyst says you can benefit the most from refinancing if you're not planning to move within the next few years. Also, if you have more than 10 years left on your mortgage. You also need to consider closing costs that can average around $5,000. Most experts recommend you need to be saving at least $200 a month to make these costs worth it. If you haven't voted yet, Google can help you out. It has a new feature that helps find early voting locations as well as ballot drop-off boxes. Google will provide information about 200,000 voting locations across the country and will also provide updates for people who live in places where voting locations haven't been determined yet.
I'm investigative reporter Patrick Terpstra. Remember this summer when blue mailboxes kept disappearing, leading to fears it had something to do with the election? Coming Monday, new documents show what was really going on, whether it was anything political or unusual.
Well, we've started a little bit of a roller coaster ride with our temperatures, and that is going to continue, but we make a little bit of a climb after a chilly start tomorrow at 36. We're in the middle 60s both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday a little breezy, Sunday a little wet as we get into the evening. We'll have some rain around. That brings in cooler temperatures for our Monday. But look, as we get through much of next week, highs are back in the 60s and even some lower 70s there as we approach Thursday. Thanks for joining us here at 5:30.